We live now. So look, it's the SCMP MMA post-fight podcast. It's the boys, Nick, JHK, and Leon. Leon was just telling us a little bit about his swab test. Leon, what's going on with that swab test? You've been going through some pain there.
I do not recommend it at all. At all. When I speak to people about tattoos, I say, tattoos don't hurt. A lot of people are like, what? Mine hurt. And I went, mine didn't hurt at all. So it's weird. But when it comes to swabs, on the opposite end of the spectrum, I hate it. I can't do it in silence. They're going, relax. I'm going.
Wait, what is this? They're like shoving something up your nose or what?
So far, honestly, I felt a tweak on the back of my skull. There's nothing to stop it. There's no brain in my head, so it just keeps going.
What is that? Is that part of like the MCO in Kuala Lumpur or what?
Nah, it's because I've had, I had a bronchitis in that last year, and I still haven't got to the bottom of it. So you're going to have to shove a camera down my throat on Wednesday and sedate me today. Because of the regulations at the moment, I had to do a COVID test in advance.
Well, I hope you're okay. Yeah, keep us updated, Leon, on your progress there, man. But good to have you back. Yeah, look, we're here to talk about UFC 257. Huge show. I still haven't recovered, guys. That was a monumental show. That night, or should I say a day of shocks. We won't get into my picks on the Fanatics Fantasy MMA app because I went 3-8. It was a shocking day for me. I really messed up there. But guys, 24 hours or so removed. Yeah, what is your vibe right now? What's your feelings? Leon, we'll start with you. That was such a crazy show. So many shocks and upsets.
The thing is, though, I don't know if it's for everyone else, but if Conor McGregor, he sells you confidence in himself. Like even when he fought Mayweather, when that was announced, everyone knew he was going to lose. He was never, ever going to beat Floyd Mayweather. But come fight night, you're like, oh, no one could physically be that confident and for no good reason. And you kind of start thinking, he could win this. And it's similar against Dustin Poirier. Although anything's possible, I think everyone wrote off Dustin because McGregor just sells you this confidence and he trains hard. So I think it just shocked the world, isn't it? It's like, and the way it happened, the fact it didn't happen via submission, he didn't get tired, it wasn't a decision. He got finished through TKO. It's crazy.
Yeah, I remember I was watching it and I saw Dustin had Conor in trouble against the fence. Conor was kind of ducking and weaving. I thought, I've seen Conor do this before. He can get like this, but he'll be fine. And then it was over. Like he kind of ducked down a little bit and Dustin just caught him perfectly on the chin. John, I saw your reaction. James Lynch posted it online because you were doing that fight companion with James Lynch. And I saw your reaction. You were stunned. Just talk me through your emotions through that moment.
I was stunned. I didn't have the animated reaction like most people did, but I was shocked. I wasn't like shocked to the point where, when you look at shocking moments in the UFC octagon, I look at like Holly Holmes. Like that is one of the most shocking fights I've ever seen in my life, right? The way that she finished Ronda Rousey. Do I put that at the level of Holly Holm? I don't think so. I don't put it up there like that because Dustin Poirier is a proven. He's like, if he was in the mafia, he'd be a made man, right? This guy, he's a made man. He's out there, and Leon is spitting real truth right there about Conor McGregor. He sells you confidence, and he, like looking at it in hindsight, he's like a snake oil salesman, right? He tricked everybody into buying this pay-per-view, and he didn't show up, and it seemed like a lot of people were pointing to his mannerisms in the cage. He wasn't bouncy like he usually is, like that confident Conor when he bounces around and throws kicks. He didn't really throw any kicks at Dustin. He was really comfortable boxing with Dustin. And, he hit him a couple times clean in the first round. The first round was competitive and everybody was probably, falling for the illusion that Conor's going to come into that second round and be a world beater. We're going to see Conor kick into another gear, but we didn't. We saw Dustin kick into another gear. totally opposite from what we imagined. Most people believe Conor was going to either finish it early or Dustin was going to finish it late. But Dustin flipped the world on its head and said, I'm going to finish it early. And he did it, man. I cannot doubt Dustin Poirier anymore. You know, like I doubted him in this fight. I thought Conor was going to come in. And I was fooled too, I guess, you know, because I was bouncing back and forth all week ahead of this fight. Like, yeah, I think Conor could do it. You know what I mean? But Conor has been inactive. Dustin has been active. You know, he's coming off that big win against Dan Hooker. His confidence is high. You know what I mean? He's faced all different kinds of styles. And then he has Mike Brown in his corner. And Mike Brown was the guy that was cornering Horiguchi when he was getting the revenge match against Kyle Sakura. Went in there, finished the fight in the first round. Very similar to how Dustin Poirier beat Conor McGregor. Attack the front leg, break that down. They can't move around. Once they can't move around, you're going to be able to close the distance easier and get the knockout. And that's what Dustin Poirier did. You know, it was very, very technical performance, man. He followed the game plan perfectly. Conor McGregor, there's a lot of questions. You know what I mean? If Conor McGregor won this fight, there aren't many questions. You know what I mean? But since he lost, there's a lot of questions. And a lot of doubters are coming out. A lot of the haters are coming out. Probably guys that were loving Conor McGregor before this fight are probably hating on him now about, is Conor still a draw? Is Conor still the Conor that, you know, that beat Eddie Alvarez? What's wrong with Conor? And man, I don't think anything's wrong with Conor. I think Dustin Poirier just beat that ass. That's all it is.
Well, look, we'll get into it.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Leon. Yeah.
I think you said a couple of things that were spot on there. One is skill for skill. It wasn't really an upset. Dustin Poirier is on Conor McGregor's level. It was only because Conor McGregor just convinced the world he was going to win easy again, because that's what he does. And then the other thing you mentioned, which is spot on, Mike Brown, the strategy going into that. For me, the fight, there was three key factors to the fight. One is Dustin Poirier overcoming the mental barrier of being bullied inside and outside the octagon 6.5 years ago. That was huge, and that was a big doubt whether he could do that. The other thing was Conor McGregor just went in there to box. He retaliated to Max Holloway, saying he's the best boxer in the UFC, and wanted just to box Poirier just to show, look, don't forget my boxing. His hands are amazing, but they're amazing in part because of all the other weapons he has. His kicks, all them things set up the hands. He virtually completely forgot about them. He done a few leg kicks after Dustin started doing it, as if to say, I better do something else here. So I think that was a key factor. And then third thing, like you say, is Mike Brown's strategy of the calf kicks. I think McGregor expected Poirier just to box with him. And I think McGregor did not prepare to be taken down, to be kicked. He prepared for a boxing match. So for me, there were the three key aspects of the result.
Yep. A lot of questions in the chat here from Paguru, one of our number one fans. So, Paguru, you've asked like 6 questions, so we'll try and get through a couple first up. I guess we'll start with the first one. Yeah, Leon, you touched on it. Why didn't Conor check Dustin Poirier's low calf leg kicks? I mean, Leon said it there. Maybe John, he just didn't expect it. He thought Dustin's going to stand and bang with him. But as we alluded to, Mike Brown, the mastermind, he masterminded that win for Kyoji Horiguchi against Kaya Sakura on New Year's Eve. Boy, did it pay off. And Conor, you saw Conor's leg. It was like, as he said, an American football inside there. Did you see the pictures? It was gruesome.
I don't think he wasn't prepared for the calf kicks, because that was something a lot of people that were breaking down this fight was talking about.
Dan Hardy.
I didn't see it myself. Yeah, Dan Hardy's smarter than me. I didn't think about it. I'm an idiot.
No, it's just like if you watch the breakdown videos of a lot of the guys, on YouTube, there's guys out there with YouTube channels that break down fights phenomenally. And Dan Hardy's one of them. Dan Hardy's one of the guys, of course he is. He fought in the UFC high level. He has a mind for the game. But there's a lot of other guys that were talking about the calf kick. Like if the calf kick, because it's because Connor's so heavy on the front leg, right? And he did check some of the calf kicks. It's not like all the calf kicks he just took them. Like he's like Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz doesn't check calf kicks, but he was just like keep getting kicked in the leg, right? So it's not like he wasn't prepared for it. I think he was prepared. The thing is, when Leon talks about preparations, I don't think Conor McGregor has the preparations like he did 5-6 years ago. I think his preparations are completely different. It's mostly people beckon to his every want and need, and not really for his best interest. It's for what he thinks is best. And when you have a camp like that, and this is just pure speculation, I feel like you're not getting the best training possible. And I forgot who tweeted this out. It was one of his enemies. One of his enemies, one of Conor McGregor's enemies, one of the famous enemies that he has, saying that once you get away from, once you get away from, having the guys that were in the pits with you, not training with you anymore, that's when you get away from who you really are as a fighter. And he didn't have the guys. He didn't have his training partners. He didn't really have SBG. It seemed like, he had the coaches, but it didn't seem like he had the bodies to help him. And usually Artem is always with him. Where's Artem?
Well, he said recently he couldn't be there because of the whole COVID situation. He's preparing for a fight which got cancelled. He was saying he might go later on, but with the whole COVID situation, I don't know if that's a factor. But
why is he in Portugal, and why is he in why didn't he just stay in Ireland and do his training? I don't understand all of that. Maybe is he because he's too famous now that the gym you could just close the doors of the gym. You lock the doors and he can have his training in there.
Because he doesn't trust himself to get distracted, to go out on the piss. Maybe in Portugal, exactly where I've been to Portugal. It wasn't quiet, but maybe he is somewhere in the middle of nowhere where he's not going to be tempted to go out in the town. Because like he said, he's made a deal of it a couple of times. It's almost like being proud. I haven't drank this camp. Like it's a big deal. It shouldn't be a big. He shouldn't need to say that. He even said he had a little drink at Christmas, which, it's Christmas. But then Conor, like you said, 5-6 years ago, I guarantee Conor wouldn't have had a little sip of whiskey a month before his fight because it was Christmas Day.
Yeah, it's too much on the line. But the thing is, Conor, no matter what, and there's another thing too. No matter what, he's gonna make a lot of money. No matter what, because I saw
25 million.
Yeah, 25 to 30 million off this pay-per-view, and Poirier's getting paid 1 million. But it's just, I don't know. Maybe I don't want to criticize his drive or whatever, but we could speculate about his preparations and his strategy, because it almost seemed like he didn't even have a strategy. He was just out there free flowing, which means basically he doesn't even need a coach. He just go fight with no corner. He'd be like Mike Perry, just go out there with your girlfriend or your wife holding the bucket and then fight.
Junior in the corner.
Yeah, Conor's still Conor, man. You could still tell he's got the physical ability to go out there and do the job, fight against the best in the world. He showed us that in the last fight against Cowboy too. It's just, I don't know. A lot of people are saying that Conor, they're saying he's done, and it's like, dude, he won his last fight. This is he got knocked out for the first time, but this is for the first time. It's not like he's been knocked out 5, 6, 7, 8 times in a row or something crazy, right? It's just, a lot of people are just talking wild right now about Conor, and I just want to know, what is the root of him getting pieced up so easily by Dustin? Is it just because Dustin was fully prepared for every single situation and he executed the game plan properly? Or is it because Conor, he did a John Jones and just didn't really do a training camp, and he was hanging out, and then he kind of kicked it up a few weeks ahead of the fight?
I think Chris raises a good point here. I'll just go to Chris Edwards Bailey, our man, just raising the point here. Is it time for Conor, if he really wants to evolve his game, to add another camp to SGB in Dublin? Firaz, Stanford, Tiger, Muay Thai. Yeah, guys, I was actually just in the pub right now, and I was, how it is when Conor McGregor fights, everyone's an MMA fan. So everyone and their dog has an opinion on a Conor McGregor fight. Suddenly, everyone's a UFC fan. So everyone's telling me, "Oh, Conor didn't prepare well for this fight." Blah blah. Blah. And I thought I was chatting to a couple of people like, would Conor McGregor benefit from going and training in somewhere like Tiger Muay Thai? Is that outlandish? I know he's got that lifestyle, John. He's got that. He's a multi-millionaire. He's got 3 children. He turned up in Abu Dhabi with $100 million yacht. Could you see this guy going and scurrying, putting himself away for 2 years away from the limelight to study and try and overcome those calf kicks, or is that just a pipe dream?
That's just a pipe dream, dude. Like, you think he's gonna go away for 2 years? No, man. Any possible way of making money, like now this is what's a trip about Conor is because he's at this level where whatever he does, he's gonna make money with it. So it's like, what can be the most lucrative, adventure that he could go on? And I feel like since he lost this fight, a lot of the opportunities, they're gone for him in the UFC. He has a couple fights that would draw, but I don't think it's because at the end of the day, you want to have that title, and that's what the UFC wanted, right? The UFC wanted him to win this fight and fight for the title, who was Chandler, because if Chandler would have won, this just in the back, it's not COVID, but in the back.
You okay there,
in the
John?
back, you're thinking like, what, like now, what do you do? That's the question I have is like, what do you do now? Because the plans, they almost like once Chandler got the knockout over Hooker, then it was like, okay, Dana's like, okay, I got my first one. Now I just need Conor to go out there and do his job, and then we could set up that title fight, which is Chandler versus McGregor. And I feel like that's what the UFC wanted. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like that's what the UFC wanted. And now it's like, if that would have happened, I feel like Dana would have come out in a press conference afterwards and been like, yeah, the next fight is McGregor versus Chandler for the UFC lightweight title. But because Dustin threw a wrench in the engine, he didn't commit to anything, which is kind of weird, right? He didn't commit to anything. And he even said that Khabib is retired. He said it, and he said that he's trying to get Khabib to come back. So I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say, man. Conor's going to go to boxing and get beat up by a bunch of people. That's what it looks like is going to happen.
Well, I don't want to see that. Go ahead, Leon. So, Leon, your mic is buzzing or something. I don't know. Could you adjust it? I don't know what's going on there.
Who,
there
me?
we go. Sounds good. No, Leon, Mr. Jennings. All right, the floor is yours, Leon. Go ahead.
Well, let's go back to the first Nate Diaz fight.
Oh, it's buzzing again. Every time you move. Seems all right now. Sorry, go ahead.
So if we go back to Nate Diaz, two things come out of that fight. One is Conor said beforehand there was no structure in his training before that. He just trained all the time, but just with no structure, which was interesting because obviously you thought you never would have imagined that. You'd have thought, especially with John Kavanagh being one of the best coaches in the world, there'd be a lot of structure. Since then, there seems to be more structure. Maybe there needs to be even more now after this past weekend. But the other thing was, after he lost to Nate Diaz, he was obsessed with getting that rematch back. He wanted it ASAP. Mm-hmm. He wanted it at the same weight. He wanted all the same circumstances. He was obsessed. He did not seem obsessed. Like John, you mentioned about would he go away for 2 years and vote. Conor McGregor, after he lost to Nate Diaz, would have done that if he needed to. Like Nick mentioned, he bowled up on $100 million yacht. And like Dana mentioned that in the press conference.
Rocky 3.
How hungry can you be, as competitive as Conor is, if you've just walked off $100 million yacht?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Dana said it, didn't he? This was Conor's Rocky 3 moment. I love Rocky as well. Clubber Lang. That was it, wasn't it? Maybe Conor's not hungry enough anymore. And Dana said afterwards, Conor goes one of 2 ways here. Either he's done or he gets hungrier. Guys, do we think Conor can rediscover that fire? Can he get hungry again?
Yes, he can. Because, there's always that fire burning inside a fighter. And you've seen it time and time again with these fighters that get older and then they think they could still fight, but they can't. And they still continue to go out there and try to bang with the young bucks and get taken out easily. But they continue and continue. And I feel like Conor still has that. It's just, who do you match him up with? You know what I mean? He doesn't have many fights. I feel like since he lost this fight, he only has 3 fights that they could put him in that would actually draw, that actually would garner some attention, would be the Nate Diaz trilogy. And a lot of people are pushing for that one. And I would like to see it. I'm always a fan of the Nate Diaz trilogy. You got the Poirier trilogy. And then you got Masvidal at 170. But I believe like Conor's going to stay at 155. Either he's going to fight Nate Diaz or he's going to fight Poirier in the trilogy. And I feel like Dana White, since he wants to give every single chance for Conor to get a chance to get that belt in his around his waist one more time, I think that's what they're going to do. They're going to put together the Poirier McGregor trilogy later this year. And I think Poirier will fight him again because why? It's another big payday, man. Why would you not fight a guy that you just knocked out? It's a no-brainer, right? And it's going to be possibly for the title too. And I can see the UFC doing that. This is my prediction. I see Conor. Like I said earlier that there is not much left, but then there isn't. But if they could put this fight together with the Poirier trilogy, I feel like Conor will come back and probably train as hard as he ever will to get ready for that fight and to be ready for the calf kicks, to be ready for anything. And maybe he'll lock himself in the Himalayas or something and get his training camp with some monks. And I don't know, but that's what I want to see. I want to see that. And I feel like Conor could still do it. I feel like people doubting his hunger. I don't think you should doubt his hunger. It's not like he's really old and he's just lost 1 fight. He's 1-1 in his last 2, or 1-2 in his last 3. So,
but Conor's, I think the startling stat for me was he's won 1 fight at lightweight in 4 years. Is that correct? Just want to be double checking.
He only has
that.
3 fights in lightweight.
Yeah, he's 1-2 in lightweight.
He's 1-2 at
Is
lightweight.
Conor, is he actually just a featherweight and needs to go back down? And
No.
do you think he can compete there? I mean, we saw how exposed he was with the calf kicks, but Alex Volkanovski will eat him up if he goes down there and he doesn't prepare for calf kicks, right, Leon?
Yeah, I don't think he's suited at 140. If you look at what he looked like when he weighed in, it's amazing he's alive in a way. He looked dead. Mm-hmm. And he's probably a bit bigger now. I don't think he could physically get down to 145 now. So I think lightweights is definitely the way he'll go. I think he could definitely come back and show the hunger and come back. I think it's interesting as well. So many of his haters have called him a quitter because he's tapped out rather than gone to sleep. I think for the first time this weekend, he did kind of give up. I think he went down, his leg was shot to pieces. Some fighters would still, like Tony Ferguson when he broke his arm, will carry on no matter what. I think Conor McGregor went down and he thought, I've had it. This is it. I've been hit down. My leg is screwed. I've lost this fight. I'm not going to win it, I think. So he hasn't done any favours for his haters. And like I think John mentioned, he's kind of lost that aura now. Even though he'd been submitted, he still had the ball on the feet. He'd never been knocked. He was untouchable on the feet. Now,
he, in my opinion, you're right, Leon. You make a very good point there. Conor McGregor knows when he's finished and when he's done, and he doesn't take unnecessary damage. I think.
You could.
Am I correct in saying that? And I think he has a long-term view on his career, which is a reassuring thing because he wants to come back. He didn't do a Tony Ferguson. He didn't just get beat up for 5 rounds unnecessarily. Maybe you're right. He knew he was done, and that was it. He went down, but not taking anything away from Dustin Poirier. But anyway, sorry. There's a bunch of comments and questions here.
Are you guys calling Conor McGregor a quitter? Come on, guys.
Him a quitter. I think he's smart. I think he.
Yeah.
No, but he was knocked
when
out.
He's finished. Yeah,
he was knocked out.
He went down. And he went down, and
when he went down, and the punch after he went down, like knocked him out, and then Poirier punched him again and woke him back up.
Yeah.
I don't think he went down to. If he would have went down and just covered up, that would have been a different story, right? But I feel like he was really hurt and he was trying to get back up, but that leg was shot.
I think he knew he'd lost, and there was no, I'm going to try and fight my way out of this.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He thought, this is it. My legs.
But usually you would cover up, at least like cover up so you don't.
Yeah, that's why he didn't. He just.
Shots.
I don't think he bothered. He was like, my leg is compromised. I cannot defend myself, even if I'm
saying he's a quitter. Like for example, when someone taps, who cares if you tap? If you're going to go to sleep 2 seconds later. You don't get extra bonus man points because you didn't tap. If you're going under or going to sleep, you're going to sleep. You might as well tap. If you're going to get your arm broken like Tony Ferguson, it's sensible to tap. Because, like Nick said, you could take unnecessary damage, which could harm not only your career, your health, or if it's an arm bar, you could be out for a year when you could have just tapped and fought again 3 months later. So it's not necessarily quitting; it's knowing that, especially if he's in it for the long haul. And look at he just when he was down, he looked deflated and just like
he was rocked though. He was rocked.
He was,
and the point I'm trying to make is that when he got knocked down, he was rocked, right? And if he was thinking at that moment like, oh, I'm gonna, kind of avoid this extra damage, why would he just leave himself out there with his head out there and try to get back up? Why didn't he just cover up and just take punches, and then the ref would have stepped in with the TKO, right?
I just think
why would he just leave his head out there and expose and just take the clean shots? I don't understand that. This is my opinion. I don't think that was a situation. I think that he was just rocked, and Poirier went in there with the kill shot, knocked him out, punched him one more time, woke him up, and that's when the ref Herb Dean stepped in. It was a good stoppage. I don't think McGregor was thinking that at that moment. I'm not like a supporter of that theory that he.
No, it's fair enough. I think John makes a good point. I think it's 50 of one, half dozen the others. I just think Conor maybe could have hung around a little bit longer if he wanted to, but he was out. He was caught. It was shocking. It was stunning. We have questions here, though, so I got to throw it to the floor. For Guru, again, our man, if you were Dana, would you give Conor an easy fight next so that he gets a win under the belt? Maybe someone who's a contender, but still beatable like Tony Ferguson.
What's an easy fight in the UFC? Anyone outside the top 10, even the top 6, they're an easy fight. He could fight. Tony Ferguson would be a fun matchup, and you could possibly argue that could be an easy fight after the damage Tony's took in his last 2 fights. But Tony's going to die in there still, and he's still going to be unpredictable. He's still going to be crazy. But that I wouldn't describe that as an easy fight by any means. You could have Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker's not an easy fight. Nate Diaz, that's a big chance. That's not an easy fight. He's going to fight. He's going to fight one of them guys. He's out of the question now from fighting for the title. So he may still get Dustin Poirier immediately, or he might get Nate. We'll have to wait and see. But I think Dustin deserves to fight Charles Oliveira for the title next.
Charlie Olives.
Yeah, I don't think Charlie Olives is getting a title shot. I don't think that's going to happen. I feel like if they if they have a title fight that doesn't involve Khabib, it's going to be
Chandler.
Chandler's going to be one of the guys. That's what the UFC wants. UFC wants Chandler to fight for the title. So if he's not fighting Khabib, and I could see that maybe possibly happening if Khabib wants to fight. I feel like if Khabib wants to fight, he's going to fight Chandler. That's the next title contender. And yeah, he doesn't want to fight, though. I'm just saying if he did, it would be Chandler. So I feel like if they're going to put the title up for grabs, it's going to be Chandler versus somebody, unless the UFC takes it another direction and says, all right, we want Conor to become the champ. So when Khabib vacates, we're going to put the trilogy on between Poirier and Conor for the title. I can see that happening, man, because whatever the UFC wants to do, they're gonna do. And especially with Connor's the golden goose, man. Like, he's gonna make the money, he's gonna bring the attention, and it's a trilogy. It's 1-1. It sells itself, man. Like, the first fight, Conor knocked him out. The second fight, Dustin knocked him out. The third fight, who's gonna knock out who? Come on, UFC.
There's no doubt it would be massive. It'd be even bigger than this one. It would be huge. But I just think that'd be going down the wrong road. Not that they haven't done it before, but I wonder if that would be too, like, obviously Conor's by far the biggest, most popular fighter in the world still, even after this weekend. He's by far the biggest draw in all of MMA, in all of combat sports. But I think Poirier versus Charles Oliveira, do that, and then put Chandler versus Gaethje on the same card, and then a bit like 257, but there'll be less, not so much question mark involved, because Khabib, let's say we'll know if he's definitely retired by then. You have Chandler or Gaethje, you fight the winner. Then you've got the 4 most deserving lightweights for a title shot fighting in the main and co-main event. That's what I'd do. And then obviously make Conor versus Nate. I'd rather see Conor versus Tony Ferguson, but I think Nate makes more sense in a way, because then you could have Dan Hooker versus Tony Ferguson.
All right, look, there's so many things to talk about, and there's so many questions coming out of that show. So sorry if we don't. Paguru here. Why didn't you answer my earlier questions? All right, we'll try and do another one, Paguru. Sorry,
bring them up.
so many. Let's bring them up. Let's do this. Yeah. What do you think of this? We didn't do this one already, did we? What do you think about nice guy Conor? He doesn't seem to have the same attitude as he did before. Is that, to be fair, Dustin's one of the nicest guys you ever meet, so it's not easy to be rude to him. Yes, I'm actually about to write a column for SCMP on this very subject. Dustin spoke to it in his press conference. He was asked, do you think that played a factor in this fight? Was Conor not the same fighter he was 6 years ago? I have similar thoughts. Maybe Conor needs to rediscover that mean streak, that arrogance, that snarl, that flair. Guys, is that something that could help him beat Dustin Poirier in the trilogy?
This is this is a good question. That's a great question. And you've got to say that, I mean, I think, again, it goes back to Conor's confidence. When he was coming up, he was proving a point. He was walking the walk, talking the talk. Now I think he's felt before this fight like he didn't need to. He knew he could beat Cowboy without mentally breaking him before the fight. I think he thought that would be almost too easy. And obviously he'd had a lot of bad press outside. So I think he wanted to try and maybe win some fans back. And then with Poirier, same thing again, really. I think he just kind of carried on that momentum of being the nice guy and thinking, I don't actually need to get him his head. I can beat him anyway. But it'd be interesting if he fights Nate next, or even Ferguson, because I think then you would see the old Conor come back, which you could say maybe he does need.
It's small margins, isn't it, John?
Yeah, I think I was disappointed that Conor didn't flip the switch during the press conference. I felt like he should have, and Dustin, he got in his head last time. So why wouldn't you try to take every advantage over a fighter heading into a fight? You know what I mean? I think that played a big role in how he won the first fight, is to get Dustin thinking too much about the trash talk, thinking too much about the anger, feeling the anger, and you trying to use that anger to drive him.
Dustin, sorry, I interrupt you, John. Dustin did say this. I'll come straight back to you. But I was transcribing his press conference, and he said, "Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was a mental play as well from Conor. Literally, he wondered if Conor being nice to him was Conor trying to get in his head. Do you think that was a reverse mental play from Conor?
Nah, man. Why would it be a reverse mental play, man? I think you gotta get angry. You gotta get your opponents angry at you. You gotta get them in their feelings, and that's what Conor does the best. Why would you not go with your bread and butter? That's like one of his bread and butters, is to get inside the head, to get them angry, to get them emotional, and to get them out of out of their shell and expose them, you know what I mean, in that cage. And he uses that a lot against a lot of the fighters. You've seen it through his rise. Jose Aldo, Eddie Alvarez, you know what I mean, a bunch of guys, right? And it just, why didn't he just do it in this one? I don't understand. Did he not, you know, Dustin is too nice too, but it doesn't matter if he's too nice. You could talk all you want, you know what I mean? Like, Dustin's not going to really say much, right? But you can draw him into it. Try to draw him into it. And if he doesn't come into it, maybe he's thinking it later, you know, stepping into the cage. I don't know. It's just it's kind of a weird thing, you know, that Conor didn't turn it up at least a little bit. He was trying to be so nice, like overly nice. And maybe that's why Dustin felt like that was an approach, but it didn't work on Dustin. Dustin likes to fight guys that are nice. You know what I mean? I think he would rather fight guys that are more respectful than fighting a guy that he hates, because he knows that could possibly get him out of his game. So, it's Conor, man. He needs to go back to his old self. That's what he needs to do.
Yeah,
I like that. I like what that brings to the game of Conor, and he should stay true to that and not flip flop. You know what I mean? Everybody flip flops, but I think as a fighter, as like the image that you portray, and you know, Conor, he has so many highlights of him just going crazy on the mic on people, you know, and I think he should have done that. That press conference was so disappointing, because Conor is the guy that kind of sways, or he's the captain of the ship. Once he starts going, then everybody else will start going too. You know, like he could have got Dan Hooker involved. You know, Dustin would have probably got a little emotional. Chandler is there too. You know, you're sitting up there with two of the nicest probably guys in the UFC, which is Chandler and Dustin, two of the nicest, most respectful guys in that division, in the promotion. And Dan Hooker, he's just banter. He's not, you know, he doesn't take it too seriously. You know what I mean? He's gonna trash talk, but it's banter. It's just what he does. But yeah, man, it's just Mr. Nice Guy. I don't know. Maybe if that's him, maybe he shouldn't come back. Maybe he should just stay.
On his way up, he literally won every fight before he stepped foot in the octagon. Mm-hmm. Then he got to Nate Diaz, and that was interesting because it was just so entertaining. I don't know if it worked so much with Nate, because Nate just doesn't care. Mm-hmm. Then he fought Floyd Mayweather, and his mental game ahead of that fight was incredible. He would have demolished mentally 99% of all fighters, but it didn't affect Mayweather one bit. And Conor McGregor in them few press conferences was on fire. That was his best mental warfare game, and it made zero difference. Then he fought Khabib, and it didn't really make a lot of difference to Khabib, although Khabib just said the other day he did get a little bit emotional. He wanted to hurt him more than he normally does, but Khabib was still cool enough to not have any effect. So is there a little bit of Conor thinking, gone are the days when I could get into opponent's head, especially now he's lost that mental edge. When he was demolishing people verbally and backing it up, he was untouchable. He doesn't have that now. Even if he turned it on, like even if he turned it with Dustin Poirier, would it have been as effective? It wouldn't have been as effective, and Poirier would have took it better, because I had a bit of doubt whether he overcome mentally the first fight. But even if he hadn't, he still wouldn't have took Conor McGregor's trash talking as personally as he did last time. So I hope to see it come back a bit. I mean, I don't want to see him overstepping the mark like he did with Khabib so much. I think he went a bit too far there, even though I can't understand why Khabib took that personally. If I'm a fighter and someone's saying stuff about my wife, my kids, my mum, my religion, why would I take that personally? He's saying that because he wants to get under my skin. The fact it's me is irrelevant. He'd say it to anyone. So I can't understand how any fighter could take someone's trash talking personally. But on the other hand, yeah, Conor McGregor, I don't think will ever have that same, especially fighting. He's going to be fighting all top 5-6 guys now. Obviously, when he was working his way up, he wasn't. They weren't there's a reason why they weren't in the top 5, because they couldn't handle the trash talking. Habib did, Mayweather did. They're 2 of the greatest ever in combat sport.
All right, look, there's a bunch of questions. Sorry, so I'm gonna just try and get through them all. If I missed them, I'm sorry. Just give me a reminder. I'm kind of picking them at random here. Tan Nguyen, what's up, Tan? Saying with no gate and a losing Conor, is the UFC overpaying him? I think we saw earlier that the fee was 25 million for Conor and pay-per-view points. Guys, is he going to get this kind of?
It was 5 million from the UFC.
5 million. Okay.
And then with the other points and that on top, it'd probably be 25.
All right. Okay. So thanks for clarifying that. Yeah.
1 million. And that extra 20 million, is that all pay-per-view, or has he got all his sponsors and all that malarkey on top of that 25 million?
You tell me, Leon.
Probably, I think it's probably 5 million UFC, maybe 20 million pay-per-view points, and then all his other stuff on top. Because he's talked before, I think his last fight, he said he wanted to make 100 million, and he said afterwards he didn't quite make. He made about 18 million altogether with everything put together. Taking in mind probably 12, that probably brings in more money when he's fighting as a result of that.
Yeah, Proper 12 was all over the screen, man. He was advertising that like crazy, you know, and that's one of his sponsors. Well, that's his company. And I'm pretty sure he's going to benefit tremendously off all that advertisement and him fighting and just having that bottle next to him. So, yeah, Conor McGregor is going to run away with like probably at the end of the day, he'll probably run away with like upwards to like 50 million just off, you know, just the effects of this pay-per-view. Even though he lost, he's going to make tremendous amounts of money. And at the end of the day, man, that's what he's here for, I think, mostly. He's here to make money. And he accomplished it. You know what I mean? Even though he lost, I don't think it affects him as much as a lot of people probably think it does.
I'd accept 50 million to put in a really bad performance on this podcast. Some might say I'm putting a bad performance in anyway.
You're putting in a great performance, Leon. You're worth 50 million, every penny. Another point from Tan, saying the Biden administration just imposed sorry, I cannot speak tonight, apparently. The Biden administration just imposed travel restrictions for many countries. Dana hinted at this, didn't he, guys, in the post-fight press conference? UFC, everything can go to shit, because if you have to quarantine for 2 weeks, how are they going to be putting on cards? Everything's going to change. Are we about to see big changes, John?
No, because Fight Island is not the U.S. So what are they even talking about? Why are they worried?
About anyone coming into the US is now gonna be maybe 2 or 3 weeks in a hotel room.
Well, they got Las Vegas, and I'm pretty sure one of those hotels will love to have all the UFC fighters when they come back from Abu Dhabi.
Will fighters want to come and then just sit in a hotel for 3 weeks before they fight? It's not ideal, is it?
Well, I feel like the people that are in the U.S. that they really need to go off to Fight Island and fight, they will send those fighters and those people. But other than that, I'm pretty sure that they'll just keep everybody internationally going to Fight Island and then just ship out whoever they need to ship out, especially the big names, you know, maybe title fights or whatnot, and keep the machine rolling, man. They're gonna find a way. It doesn't matter what Joe Biden is doing. Joe Biden can do whatever he wants. You know, like a lot of countries have these travel bans, right? Travel restrictions, and they're making do. You know what I mean? Even people that are fighting out of Thailand and stuff, they're leaving, going back, doing 2-week quarantines and getting back to their families. So if you're willing to risk the quarantine, not risk, but if you're willing to do the quarantine, you're gonna go. There's no big deal, man. Especially, you know, if it's for like a big fight, a major payday, coming back and doing 2 weeks is probably no problem, especially if you're in a nice hotel.
Well, we'll just see reverse. At the moment, since Fight Island came on the scene last summer, about 2/3 of the cards have been in Vegas and about 1/3 have been in Fight Island. It'll probably just flip reverse. Mm-hmm. They'll do most of the fights in Fight Island, and the ones they can with the people that are inside America, which are still a lot of fighters, they'll be in Vegas. So it'll probably just be that way round for most of this year. And that's why Dana White said about last October time, he thought it was going to go the other way. He thought Trump was going to win the election and Trump would have gone the other way with the whole restrictions and quarantine, and it would have been easier to restrictions and lockdowns would have stopped and it would almost gone back to normal. Whereas obviously Biden's gone in now and it's going to go the opposite way. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a pain. And like Dana said in the press conference, he's probably going to move to Fight Island because it's a new fight capital of the world, isn't it?
Exactly. And why does Joe Biden look like he's melting? Have you ever seen him on TV? It looks like his face is melting, you know, like it's
20 years old.
How old is he?
He's about 120.
Oh, geez. He's older than, man, what was the other guy that looked like he was like on death's door?
He's almost as old as the sun.
The sun?
Yeah, he's that old. He's almost as old as the sun.
Oh, the sun.
He's 78.
So. Jesus, 78, and his face looks like it's melting. Like
but to put that in context, Donald Trump is 74, so he's 4 years older than Donald
and he doesn't look like he's melting. He just looks like he's getting bigger.
He looks like he's getting fried.
Yeah, and
he's so orange. Yeah,
he looks like he's expanding, and he's like turning into a big orange,
big Cheeto. Yeah,
a big Cheeto. That's right.
Biden's just got dementia, and Trump's just got. For me, I just find Trump.
They both got dementia. Jesus.
And delusion.
Trump's just a bit of a buffoon, and he just says he hasn't got. You can't compare the two, but Trump, I just find comedy gold. To watch him, his ego at stake, and the things he says, and everything's the greatest. I would pay to what. I just love watching him talk and that. Whereas Biden's just.
Would you pay $70.99? What's the new price of a UFC pay-per-view in the US? What are they charging you?
$79.99.
A pay-per-view that didn't work. Half of the US, apparently on the West Coast, it didn't even work. And Dana made a big song and dance, didn't he, guys, about we're going to catch you if you illegally stream it. If you do that, you've got to make sure your own streaming service works, guys. Absolute PR own goal, I think. What was going on? I heard Chris was telling me the dark web wasn't happy with what Dana was saying, and they did that to prove a point. They tried to fuck him over, basically, because of all his bravado. Yeah, that's the thing going around is they heard about Dana saying this and that, and they said, all right, you think you can do that? We're going to just put the lights out on your pay-per-view.
To be fair to Dana, I think it was talking to BT Sport, he said, you're never going to stop this. You're never going to, and he's not going to try it because you can't. But he said in the press conference, he's just going to go after one guy every event. I think that's quite funny. He's not trying to, again, it's a bit like, he's got a bit of an ego, a bit like Donald Trump. That makes him feel better. He's never going to win that battle or the whole war. But if he beats one guy each event, it just makes him feel better about himself. He loves a personal battle. He loves it when the media criticize him about something. He just loves going to war with people. He's all about that.
All right, fair enough. Look, yeah, again, a bunch of questions in the comments. I'm trying to just make my way through them. I will get to them all, hopefully, just in the wrong order. Does Chandler win against Khabib? Says MD. If he returns, I think he's dreaming. But what do you guys think? Yeah, we've spent the last 48 minutes talking about Conor and Dana, but look, there was a huge co-main event, wasn't there, guys? Dan Hooker got knocked out the first round. Michael Chandler. I picked Dan Hooker. I thought Dan Hooker was going to get a TKO, but it was Michael Chandler's show, boys. Michael Chandler made one of the best UFC debuts ever, I think, especially from someone outside of the organization, from a prominent other organization. He was on fire. What's the next fight for Michael Chandler, John?
Easy work, man. Michael Chandler did easy work. Yeah. Props to his team and his performance and all the doubters. Everybody was doubting him, man. I thought that he was gonna. I know that he's a great fighter, and I told you guys before that I believe that he's gonna become the UFC champion. He's just not gonna beat Dan Hooker, and I was completely wrong, but I could still be right about him becoming the UFC champion. And I still feel like he will. And this is almost. His performance against Hooker almost like solidifies my theory or my prediction even more that he'll become the champion. And he's going to fight Khabib. I feel like a lot of people are going to look at this fight and think like the Justin Gaethje fight. They're going to think, oh, Justin Gaethje has a chance. And we're going to drink that Kool-Aid. And just like Chandler too, same thing. We're going to drink the Kool-Aid until Khabib steps in there and does what Khabib does to everybody. And I think that that's what's going to most likely going to happen. But I wouldn't put it past Chandler to knock out Habib either. You know what I mean? Like he does have that explosiveness that Gaethje does not have. Gaethje does not have that explosiveness that Michael Chandler has. I don't even think many of the guys in that lightweight division has that explosiveness. Do you see anybody have that leaping forward explosiveness like Michael Chandler has? No, I don't think so. And
I mean,
I
it
think
was an
that
incredible overhand left, yeah, but
yeah.
I
And
don't think Khabib's coming back. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
So I don't even think this fight happens. So maybe who is Chandler going to fight next?
Gaethje. That's the fight to make.
Gaethje. Elaborate on it, Leon. Go on.
Like I said earlier, Gaethje versus Chandler. The winner of that fight's the winner of Dustin Poirier versus Charlie Olives.
Charlie Olives. Mr. Broomstick. Okay.
People are saying that
That
Nate
was the
Diaz
best
should
quote of the
fight.
whole press conference.
Yeah, it was good.
People are saying that Nate Diaz should fight Dustin Poirier. That's what people are saying. They want Nate Diaz to come back and fight Poirier. And I don't like that fight for Nate Diaz at all. I think Poirier destroys him. You know, I think Nate Diaz gets destroyed by a lot of the guys. I think he gets destroyed by Charlie Olives. I think Dan Hooker destroys Nate Diaz. Chandler definitely would destroy Nate Diaz. Gaethje would smash Nate Diaz. There's not many guys Nate Diaz can compete with. The only person that makes sense and that he has a chance against is Conor. Just because he does know that if he weathers the storm, he could go into the third and fourth round and possibly choke him out. You know what I mean? And that's the only thing I see. A lot of people are thinking Nate Diaz is coming back to fight Dustin Poirier because of the tweets. And Nate Diaz always tweets out, you know, he's a hater. Like, I don't understand like why people don't point that out. Nate Diaz is a hater. And
they were supposed to fight at UFC 230 just over 2 years ago. And that was a weird one. They both blamed each other for the fight not happening. So there's that bad blood's been going for over 2 years. But how about Dan Hooker versus Nate Diaz? That would be
a good fight too. But the thing is, like, I don't hate any of those fights. I just think that Nate Diaz is the underdog in a lot of those, pretty much all of those fights, and most likely he would. But I would watch all of them. I'm not saying I wouldn't watch Nate Diaz fight because Nate Diaz is entertaining.
Matchups in the lightweight. And we haven't even talked about RDA. And there's Paul Felder, who's probably just a smidgen outside that top 6-7. But you put him in there with the Tony Fergusons, it's going to be a fun fight.
Yeah.
Another point I
Sorry. All right, Leon, you're back on. Don't do dramatic pause where you don't say anything for 3 seconds. Carry on.
Back to Khabib quickly. I don't think Khabib has any right to go down as the GOAT retiring now. I think if he fought Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler, Conor McGregor again, Tony Ferguson, if he wins them 4 fights, I don't think there's a question that he's the GOAT. But retiring when there are still some interesting matchups for him, I think he's removed himself from the GOAT conversation. I think he's one of the best. I think it's ridiculous when people say his record was padded. Who fought the best in the world in their first few fights? It's irrelevant. Look at his record in the UFC. It's unblemished. He's beaten.
But he won a title against Iaquinta. He beat Conor. He beat Dustin. He beat Gaethje. I do see the point that those people have. Why not go and beat Chandler? Why not go and beat? I guess Tony Ferguson's off the table now. Go beat Charles Oliveira. Really make your mark. Like, stamp your authority and your greatness. 2 more years, maybe. And then there'll be no debate. No one will be saying, "Oh, I'm not sure if Khabib is number 1 pound for pound. I'm not sure if he's the GOAT." Go and get 3 more wins, and then no one's arguing. Am I wrong? Am I right?
Nick, I talked about this. Remember, like a couple weeks back.
I thought you were saying I talked about this a couple minutes ago, and I'm just
I talked about this a couple weeks back. Remember, I broke it down. Like, I don't even know. I think it was during the live chat that we had with one of our guests. I forgot, but I went into this, right? There's pound for pounds, there's legends, there's GOATs, right? And there's icons. These are different levels, right? And pound for pound, yes, you can say Khabib was pound for pound the best fighter on the planet for a period of time. But you cannot put Khabib up at that legend status with John Jones, GSP, Anderson Silva, Demetrius Johnson. You can't put him up there with them because, like Leon just said, he's only defended the title twice, and he needs a run. He needs that long reign as the champion to become that legend. You know what I mean? He's an icon, of course. You know what I mean? That's no doubt. You know, for the Muslim community out there and the people out there that follow him, he's definitely an icon. He's a world star, right? And there, you can't take that away from him. But for like legend status in the UFC or in the MMA in general, he's far from it. Like he needs like more title defenses. He needs to move up in weight and fight the champion. He needs to move up in weight and fight somebody, a contender, beat them. You know, like there's a bunch of fights for him to have to reach this status of like you know, God status in many ways. You know what I mean? You know, lowercase G, God status, right? But he's far from it, man. Like people, they argue about this all day, and me and Leon and Nick, we're all on the same page about this. That he needs to fight Chandler. He needs to fight. He needs to fight Chandler. He needs to fight Charles Oliveira. There's a couple rematches there that he could take and beat him. And it's not. And we know that he is. We know that he's whatchamacallit. He's the favorite going into every single fight, but we want to see him do it. It's just like when Anderson Silva was the favorite going into every single fight. We just wanted to see him do it, because you never know what happens in fighting. That's the thing. You never know what
Dana,
you know.
Dana said Khabib told him, I am so many levels above these guys. Leon, is that a valid point?
Show us with your action, not with your words.
Exactly, yeah. Show it. Like John said, he'd be favourite going into them fights. He could fight 4 more times, legitimately clear out the division, and be regarded as the GOAT. But an interesting thing is, again, you got to give Conor McGregor credit. He loves a challenge. Khabib doesn't so much. Like John said, he could, if he wanted a challenge, he could go up and challenge Kamaru Usman, which is a fight he maybe wouldn't be favourite, and he could lose. And when he said he wants to fight GSP, he said he'd only fight at lightweight. He wouldn't even consider a catchweight, which is a massive advantage to him. Like, I don't understand that for someone who's that great, who is the best pound for pound fighter in the world at the moment, one of the best ever, to not be willing to take a little bit of a risk. It's a little bit like a Floyd Mayweather. His fight selection for a year was very strategic. So I think he loses a little bit of respect there. But a question I was going to ask a minute ago is, let's say if Khabib came back 4 and he did win 4 or 5 more fights, and at the same time John Jones went up to heavyweight and beat Miocic and Nagana and anyone else.
And then Khabib fights John Jones.
Yeah. Well, no, who then would be the GOAT? John Jones? Khabib?
John Jones would be the GOAT. Come on, man. That's no. If he goes up to heavyweight and beats Stipe and Ngannou and holds that title, John Jones is without a doubt the greatest fighter of all time. And you'd have to do a lot more to actually surpass John Jones' accomplishments in the sport. The only person that could possibly ever do that would be Adesanya. If he wins this light heavyweight title and then moves up to heavyweight to fight John Jones. And this is what I feel like this is what the UFC is kind of building towards, and it's all in the plans. It's in the grand scheme of things, and this is what they're doing to put everything in motion. They just have to win the fights. But yeah, going back to Khabib, he needs to do a lot more. He needs to do a lot more to be in that GOAT status. To be on the Mount Rushmore. You know what I mean? Like he needs to do much more. And one thing you got to give credit to Conor is Conor was never afraid to take on challenges. You know what I mean? He was never afraid to take that risk, even going up to welterweight. You know what I mean? And sometimes he's basically the smaller fighter and go and fight bigger guys. You know, he took on the lightweight title. You know what I mean? To me, that was also a risk too. He could have stayed at featherweight and continued fighting. You know what I mean? He didn't have to go up to lightweight, but he wanted that challenge. He wanted to risk it all to make history. You know what I mean? Like that's something you can't take away from Conor, and that's why Conor has become who he is. But yeah, it's weird. Leon makes a great point that Habib, he's the favorite going into all these fights, but he doesn't want to fight these guys. And then GSP, he doesn't want to fight him at a catchweight. He wants to fight him at 155. Well, GSP's never going to make 155. That's never going to happen, man. Like, let's get out of here with that. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. If anybody starts arguing to me about like Habib is the greatest of all time, those are the three arguments that you have against it. We just laid them out for you. Like, so if anybody that's listening here, if someone argues you about Khabib, you just lay it out. Those are the three right there.
My next question, how well will John Jones do at heavyweight? Because when he first came on the scene, he was incredible. No one can argue that. But the last couple of years, almost since, I don't want to say USADA, but since almost like he's started being more dedicated and not going out the weekend before his fights, he hasn't been anywhere near as dominant. I think everyone agreed he lost that last fight to Dominic Reyes. The fight before, I think everyone agreed he did win, but it was very close. He's lost that sense of, a bit like we were talking about Conor McGregor, certainly at light heavyweight, he hasn't got that sense of invincibility anymore, which is why I think it's very clever of him to go up to heavyweight, because he hasn't less pressure. Like he said, the reason he used to go out all the time drinking and partying was because if he could say to himself, if I lose, it's only because I was partying, which is a bit of a mental weakness to have that mindset. And he's shown that a little bit again, I think, by going up to heavyweight. He's taken the pressure off. He could lose and say, I took a risk. What can you say? Whereas if he fought again at light heavyweight and lost to Dominic Reyes or lost to Thiago Santos, it's massive. He goes out the GOAT window, pretty much. So back to the question, how well will he do at heavyweight?
That's the question. That's a good question.
How well is his body going to react to putting on all that muscle?
Well,
we're going to find out.
Yeah,
it looks like he's going to get the winner of Ngannou and Stipe, right? I think that's in the work. So, immediate title shot for John Jones.
And that's confirmed. Pretty much, that's confirmed now.
Pretty much, yeah.
All of them are confirmed.
260.
Volkanovski, Ortega's confirmed.
27th, yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of stacked events. I got to get through some of these questions. I mean, we're doing scattergun approach here. Sorry, there's so much to do. Chris asking, how good is Pitbull? LOL. Yeah, look, Michael Chandler looked like $1 million, but I think Pitbull tweeted after something about who's your daddy or something along those lines, or daddy is proud of you. Yeah, would you want to see Pitbull coming into the UFC if he runs down his contract in Bellator?
Yes and no. I think you want to see the best guys in the UFC because, like with Chandler, you want to see how well they actually match up. But on the other hand, I think it's a bit annoying when someone sees someone good in another promotion. Some fans go, do you think we'll ever see him in the UFC? Like that's the be-all or end-all for all fighters. We've seen, like with one championship, with Bellator to a certain extent, they're well-established promotions now. That particularly if you're in Asia, being the one world champion might mean more to you than being the UFC champion. So, yes and no, I'd like to see that.
All right, we got other questions here. Honest, Sumdut Roy, what's up, Sumdut? Ask you honest evaluation of Kavanaugh without Conor. His corner work with adversity in the Diaz one and Poirier 2 fights were redundant. Even his 10,000 Bellator fighters are inconsistent. Yeah, we touched a little bit earlier about Conor maybe needing to switch things up, but was Kavanaugh? Was he a letdown last night? Did he let Conor down?
Kavanaugh corners the same way every single time. You know, I mean, I'm pretty sure he has a system. He has a formula of how he corners his fighters, each different fighter. So I don't think he did anything wrong. If it was redundant, that's probably what Conor needs. You know, does Conor need technical instructions between rounds? I don't think. Some fighters need it. Some fighters don't. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm pretty sure Conor knows what he needs to do when he gets out there. Kavanaugh probably just says what he needs to say to him to kind of get him going or to remind him of why he's doing it or where he's at. You know what I mean? Like, you see it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. When it doesn't work, then we're going to criticize it. If it works, then we're going to be like, that was the greatest corner speech. You know that speech with Teddy Atlas and Timothy Bradley where he's like, we're firemen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you think like Kavanaugh should have been in there saying like, we're firemen?
I'm just putting the questions to you that people ask.
Get in the fire.
Get in the fire.
It's difficult not to like John Kavanagh's philosophy in fighting. I think he has the right philosophy. Like I mentioned earlier, to find out that there wasn't really any structure to Conor's training before the first Nate Diaz fight was a bit of a concern. And then I think me and John slightly disagreed. The fact that, well, I don't know if it was his preparation or whether it was just Conor's mindset, but to me it looked like Conor McGregor just wanted and expected a boxing match and was surprised to be taken down and wasn't prepared for those calf kicks at all. And we've seen now over the last couple of years how big leg kicks have been, and even more so, more specifically, the calf kicks more recently. I think that's one of the most important aspects of everyone's game, both attacking and defensively. That needs to be a huge part or in the mind of every single fighter. So whether that was down to the fight camp wasn't structured or prepared enough, or whether that's just Conor McGregor, just literally the ego in him saying, I need to prove that I'm a better boxer than Max Holloway.
Breaking
news from John. What's up?
Yes, Frank Lampard has been sacked by Chelsea.
Well, that was like 3 hours ago, bro. I was already texting about that with my friends.
I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, one of you support Chelsea?
No, I don't. But I was talking about that at 7 p.m., John. It's 9:38 p.m. now. That's not breaking.
Now he's doing like football elitist on me.
Oh yeah. The funny thing is that Frank went off on this journalist in the press conference last weekend, and I know that guy. I studied journalism with him. Liam Toomey, who writes for The Athletic, he's the Chelsea correspondent, and I know Liam very well. And he's a great journalist, really nice guy. And Liam asked something along the lines of, and then Frank was like, "Well, Liam, I think you're wrong, and you're a fucking prick." It was so funny. Frank Lampard just switched on this poor guy. But look, Frank's gone anyway. No one wants to hear us talk about Chelsea scum. I hope none of you are Chelsea fans. So I got more questions. Hamish, do you think Dan Hooker's game plan was wrong, or did he just make an error? Have Hooker's stocks dropped much?
I'm telling you,
big interview,
with Hooker,
didn't we, John? You did.
Yes, with Hooker, I think like his game plan. I'm pretty sure they had a great game plan. That they formulated with Eugene. City Kickboxing, man, there's some of the greatest minds out there in the sport, right? You know that. You've seen them at work in many of the fights, and many of Hooker's fights in the past too, with Quinta, with Felder. Those are some good game plans. I think what happened with Hooker was that he just zigged when he should have zagged and got caught. And that's what happened. He got caught. Did Hooker's stock drop? I don't think so. I think Hooker's stock actually rose. And if he would have won this fight, it would have been skyrocketed, right? But he did so much press leading up to this fight. He promoted this fight really well. To be honest with you, Michael Chandler didn't really promote the fight at all. It was Hooker, the one that was promoting the fight. And I feel like he did really well leading up to the fight and getting a lot of interest and stirring the pot. And it just, this is the sport, man. Like, you're not going to always predict that you're going to win in some fashion and do it. Sometimes you're going to get knocked out. Sometimes you're going to get submitted. It's just going to happen. And I feel like his stock has rose. And I feel like the UFC is going to probably give him another big fight after this. They're not going to just let him go fight some guy in the 10 to 15. They're going to give him another big name. And I feel like they're going to probably give him, I think Ferguson probably will be the fight that they're going to make.
him and Paul Felder. They're kind of the in between. They're not quite as good as the top 5, and they're a bit better than the guys just outside the top 8 or so. They're just in that crossover.
Sweet
So
spot.
he's going to stay where he is. He's going to be entertaining. He's durable, although obviously he got hit right in the. Interestingly, he got hit by the same shot he took James Vick out with.
Yeah.
You live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Yeah, I think Dan Hooker, I think you make a good point there, Leon. I think he is right in the middle there. He's capable. I genuinely believe Dan Hooker is capable of beating anyone in that division on his day, but he's also capable of losing to some of the guys around him. And it's really hit and miss. He could be a guy who puts a run together, but I love Dan and I hope he comes back. I don't know what's the next matchup for him there. It's difficult to recover from this. I don't know. Who do you matching up against next, John?
I say they match him up against Ferguson.
Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, they're both.
Yeah,
I think on back-to-back losses, right?
Yeah,
and
that's a good shout. Yeah,
that's a good, fun 3-rounder co-main event somewhere. I think so. Even if they want to headline, they could headline, but I don't think these guys want to fight 5-rounders unless it's going to be for a title shot. I feel like a lot of these guys that are taking these headlining spots, fighting 5 rounds, and if there's no monetary benefit to fighting 5 rounds, or there's no like benefit of you getting a title shot, it's like the fight, with Holloway and Cater, right? I understood why why would you take that to a 5-rounder? Because if Cater would have won, he could have possibly been the next guy in line behind Ortega. And Max was the guy that derailed that, right? So I could see that happening. And Max has been fighting 5 rounds for a long time. And he could possibly even be fighting for the title next too. Doesn't matter if Ortega wins or Volkanovski. Max could be lined up because the UFC, they love Max. So,
Yeah.
but these other guys that are taking these 5-rounders, you know what? I'll give you an example. Is the Korean Zombie. He's had, I think, 7 straight main events. 7 straight main events, and he doesn't get even close to the pay.
he
There's
does.
a lot of the top featherweights.
He didn't even get 100,000 for the Edgar fight as a main event in his home country.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's like,
Yeah,
what is
insane.
going on? It's like, that's why Jose Aldo came out and said, I'm not taking no main events. Why would I fight 5 rounds? Unless it's going to be for
where you get hit a lot. If you want to put an extra 10 minutes of getting punched in the head, if you've got that same mindset as, Dan Hooker, Paul Felder, they're going to be in wars. Mm-hmm. So for their sake of their long-term health, maybe it's our duty to give them 3-round fights instead of 5-round fights, unless they're in title fights.
Yeah, it's like it's a difficult choice. There's got to be some kind of monetary reward or something that's going to come down the pipeline for you to take a main event 5-rounder, and you're not going to get anything out of it just to be a headliner. I think you got to be a little bit smarter than that when you're picking and choosing where you are on the lineup. If it's your hometown, it's a different story. But man, it's just, I feel like you got to be compensated for something like that. You can't just be taking your regular pay just to fight 10 more minutes. And you said like the style that the guy fights at, some of these guys, you don't want to take 10 more minutes of a war. Like Hooker fought back-to-back main event 5-round wars. And could that have some kind of effect on his chin against Michael Chandler? There could be something to that too, right? Because remember when Stipe fought DC, he came off that war against Ngannou, and Ngannou hit him a lot clean too. Even though Stipe won that fight, he took a lot of damage, and he turned around and came back and fought DC, and DC clipped him, and it didn't even seem like it was like a powerful punch, really. It just clipped him with the perfect punch and knocked him out pretty easily. And then you come in the second fight, the rematch, totally different fighter, man. He's taking the shots like it's nothing because he had some time to recover. So there's a lot of factors that play into it. But these 5-round main events, man, I think like people or fighters should be very careful, like taking these for no reason. Nick, what's
Leon's
the next
frozen.
question? I know. Let's go
I
to
just
the
want to
next
leave
question.
Leon there.
Let's go to the next question.
No, I want to. I just think that's
Oh, there he is.
a masterpiece right there.
Yes.
Hey,
Okay,
Someone
next
needs to
question.
screenshot that with him, Leon with his mouth open like that.
Did
That was-
everyone lose their picture there?
no, just
That
you.
was just you. We had you there. Like, that was really good.
I
You
thought
look
the
like
screen had gone
should've
down. I was going to
frozen the
say
screen
a
there.
quick point back to what John was saying.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
exactly
yeah.
what DC said. DC said Stipe's needed a year off after each of his fights for his chin to recover. Because, like John said, when he didn't do that after he fought Francis, he's like, I think DC said that himself. He goes, I hit him and he went down. It's probably because that's probably thanks to Francis Ngannou. When we look at the heavyweight division, it's one title fight a year at the moment. And he's got to fight Stipe Miocic next. John Jones is supposed to fight the winner. That's happening March 27th, Ngannou Miocic. Imagine if Stipe wins another 5-round war or he might want another year off. John Jones might not fight for another 15 months.
Yeah, I don't think that the UFC likes Stipe because of that reason. I feel like they feel like he's hard to deal with because he doesn't want to fight as often.
Part of the reason as well.
And that's why they would rather have someone like Ngannou with the belt, because Ngannou would just continue fighting, because there's a high possibility where he would just go in there and knock out contenders like real fast, like he's been doing. And you know, I talked to somebody about this recently. Ngannou, I think I was talking to Jairzinho Rosenstrike, and he was telling me, like, from a fighter's point of view, Ngannou would be a better champion at heavyweight because he would fight more often and would move the division along instead of Stipe, because Stipe, like you said, only fights like once a year, which is not good for anybody that's trying to get close to that belt in that heavyweight division. And right now, I feel like the heavyweight division is exciting. You know what I mean? It hasn't been like this exciting for a long time. So they do need to move along and push these guys into title fights real quick. And John Jones is there too. Come on.
Going back
There's
to
still loads of questions. Sorry. All right, yeah, go on, Leon, quickly. Go on.
one quick point. We'll talk about who.
Yeah, sure, bro.
How about this? One card, you have Dustin and Charlie Olives fight for the title, and then you have Gaethje versus Chandler on the co-main event, and then the next event you have Conor versus Nate in the main event, and then Dan Hooker and Tony Ferguson in the co-main event. How about them for 2 events? Main and co-main event.
That sounds beautiful, man. That's a great idea, actually. And I'm pretty sure if everything lined up right, the UFC would do that. Why not?
Because the lightweight division's
There are
so
many fights.
And the only trouble with that is, who then do you give Rafael dos Anjos and Paul Felder to next? Ideally, they'd fight each other.
They're in a weird spot, aren't they? Those two. Yeah, like they're in purgatory almost, aren't they, Leon?
Yeah.
Well, Hooker's there too right now.
Dan Hooker.
Hooker's in that position, but he has more fights that he could put together, you know, against some of these other contenders. Whereas RDA and Felder, they've either fought them already or they've lost to the contenders, right? So, and Felder right now, I think he's on a losing streak, right? Just
Felder,
like
yeah.
Hooker. Yeah.
Felder's
done 2 fights.
Tony Ferguson have all lost back to back.
Yeah, then you could put Felder against Ferguson. That would be a fight that people would watch. I feel like Felder has risen his profile a lot, man. Just doing this commentary stuff and then stepping in on short notice against RDA. I'm feeling that this year we're gonna see Felder fight another high profile guy, but actually with the camp, and it's gonna be a decent fight. It's gonna be a big fight. It could be Ferguson. It could be, you know, it could be the Hooker rematch. You know, because it was a close fight, that first one. It could be. There's a lot of possibilities, you know. So we could even see Hooker fighting RDA. You know, like there's so many fights in the lightweight division. But what Leon was suggesting, that I think those are some good choices, though.
Well, Hooker may even want a break now because he's had 2 5-rounders and then been knocked out. He might think, like we were just talking about, my chin needs a bit of time to recover. So next time it takes one square on, I'm not knocked out. Another point about Dan Hooker quickly, he didn't have Eugene in his corner either, did he? Do you think that played a factor?
No.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys, do you think who was it who brought it up? Ariel and Chael. Or someone said that Dan's record without Eugene, he was 2-0 before that. I guess now it's 3-0. George, we love George. He's a friend of the show. Do you think though that maybe Dan needed Eugene in his corner? Just you know how important Eugene is to these guys. He's the wizard they call him, isn't he?
Yeah, of course he's important, but you know what I mean, like they had no choice.
They had no choice. Yeah.
They had no choice. So Eugene wasn't able to go. So Dan said, "Hey, I got to take this opportunity. So I'm gonna take one of my guys, and then bring in a couple guys that are already on the island to corner me." And that's his choice. If he would have won, then we wouldn't be talking about this, right? It would just been like, yeah, Dan won. So
How much respect does Hooker deserve? He's took this fight knowing he's not going to have his main man in his corner, and the fact he's got to hang around in Abu Dhabi for 4 weeks,
Yeah.
4 weeks
Much
after,
respect.
and then do 2 weeks quarantine in New Zealand. So after the fight, he's got another 6 weeks before he can go back to his family. I mean, if how can you? And he's funny, and he come up with the best line in the press conference last week. How can you not love Dan Hooker?
yeah, you can't.
We love Dan Hooker, yeah, and not shitting on Dan at all or on anyone. Just wondering, yeah, was Dan as prepared as he could have been? Do we think Dan Hooker against Michael Chandler with Eugene Behrman in Dan Hooker's corner, does that go any differently? That's all I'm trying to find out.
We're never gonna get that answer because it's never gonna
Well, maybe. Could happen down the line. I don't know.
The thing is,
I'm sure Dan thinks, like, I reckon Dan right now is thinking, I'm going to see this guy again. Like, if he goes and wins the title, I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna take it from him.
Of course. I think Dan is far from being done, man. I think that he's just getting started, to be honest with you, with his UFC run. So, he's found the weight division that he was supposed to be at the whole time, and he's got to the point where he has a huge following, and he's gaining experience at the highest level. He's gonna continue, just like Felder's gonna continue, just like Ferguson's going to continue, just like a lot of these guys are going to continue. But we do need to get into these other questions, man. We're talking about the same
Shit.
continuously.
All right. Sorry. There are a few others. We're going to try and get to all of them.
Each fight.
Well, sorry, we were going to do one yesterday, but it was such a busy day, didn't get around to it. Churning out all the articles and everything. So Chris is asking here, this is very helpful of Chris because it breaks it up a little bit. What do you guys think about JoJo Calderwood? How many more fights until a title shot for her?
She will need probably another fight for a title shot. Right now, there's 2 other women in line for the belt, which is Jessica Andrade and Lauren Murphy. So if one of those fights Valentina next, then JoJo will probably need another fight to prove that she's a top contender, because of course Lauren Murphy will fight and then Jessica Andrade will fight. But what I'm hearing now is that Jessica Andrade is not going to fight for the title, and she's lined up to fight someone else most likely. So I wonder who that person is. Is it Lauren Murphy? Is Valentina going to sit out for a little while and Lauren Murphy's going to fight Jessica Andrade? If that fight gets put together, I would love to see that. But JoJo, going back to her, I feel like she needs one more fight against another girl in the top 10. Even if it's a rematch, she needs to fight somebody again and keep that momentum going. That was a good fight. You know, she used her full set of skills against Jessica Ai. And man, Jessica Ai, I'm so shocked. I'm not shocked, but I'm just real surprised that Jessica Ai has gotten to the point where she's at with the skills that she has. You know what I mean? Like it's not like she has like a diverse tool set, like a diverse skill set. It's very simplistic, and like she has the basics, and she uses the basics really well, especially with the boxing. But it's just, man, I just think that if you're talking about a person that needs to switch things up, I feel like she does need to find a change, or maybe she's changing with the wrong people. I don't know, but man, it just seems like we get the same fight out of her every single time, and you know, the result speaks for itself. But JoJo, yeah, one more fight.
Agree.
Leon, anything from you, or are we going to move on?
That completely, yeah.
Okay, all right. I will get to the next question. Yep, Amanda Ribas and Marina Rodriguez. That was another crazy fight on this card. We haven't even talked about that yet.
Yeah.
And maybe we had like double finish. Rodriguez finished Ribas twice. First time, I think she had already knocked Ribas out, and then Herb Dean stumbled over Ribas's leg, it looked like. So Marina Rodriguez thought that Herb Dean had kind of waved it off, but he'd actually just kind of fallen forward a little bit.
Yeah.
So she walked off, celebrating, arm in the air. Ribas like grabbed her, tried to go for a single leg, restarted. Rodriguez pounded her in the face a few more times, and it was all over. What do you think of that stoppage, guys? Yeah, a little bit funny.
That was a funky stoppage, and Herb Dean likes to do that a lot. He likes
He
to
didn't
get
have the best night, did he, Herb? Love
he
Herb,
got
but
so
it wasn't his
close.
finest night.
He gets his hips so close to stopping the fight, right? And then he just stops himself like right there at the edge. And that's like blue balling the fighter, right? Like you're pounding on your opponent, and then you see Herb Dean coming over. You think that he's stopping it, and then he stops like right at the last second. It's just, if you're gonna go in there and stop it, stop it. Don't go in there and like stop right at the edge, and then wait. It's like he was like hovering over them. Like basically he was fighting them too. You know what I mean? Like he was so close. Like he could have been like a blanket covering them on a cold winter night. Like it was just I don't understand that whole thing, man. It's Herb Dean has done that many times, and he's a great ref, but man, he needs to stop that. That like getting so close to stopping the fight and then not stopping it, because he's done that so many times. But hey, I thought that Marina Rodriguez was gonna beat her heading into the fight. I didn't know that it was gonna be like that, but man, that was insane. Like there was a lot of hype around Ribas because of her personality and because, you know, I think it has to do with a lot of her personality, right? And she's won fights in the UFC already, so, and she beat Paige Van Zandt, which is not really that great of a win, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
If you look at you know the whole picture, right? But with Ribas, I think a lot of people rode that hype. It's almost like that Conor McGregor effect a little bit, right? That they love this girl so much that they're hyping her so much to where they don't look at the other person, the other fighter, the opponent with a clear head, and a lot of people overlook Rodriguez, and look at what Rodriguez did. She went in there and put the hammers on her, like knocked her out twice, and that was kind of sad to see her just like Ribas, you know, a girl that's like bubbly and very entertaining and happy, just kind of like stumbling around like on her feet. It's hard to watch sometimes, man, to be honest with you.
She had beat Mackenzie Dern. So
but Mackenzie Dern was 6 months removed from a pregnancy. Like a lot of people don't put that into the equation. Like Mackenzie Dern did come back, but she was 6 months from a pregnancy, basically, I think returning too soon, and Ribas took advantage of that. And a lot of people look at that win as like, oh, look at what Mackenzie Dern's doing now. But I look at it as like Mackenzie Dern was so close to 6 months ago. She had a baby, and she's coming back. You know, I don't look at that win as something that's that significant.
I agree. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's where a lot of the hype came from. But you say that she looked better 6 months after her giving birth than she did. Remember that fight when she missed weight by loads? Mm-hmm. And you don't want to fat shame anyone, particularly women. But she was really overweight when she missed weight. She came back 6 months after giving birth, and she looked phenomenal, really. And then she looked even better her last fight. But I agree with you. I mean, 6 months after pregnancy, you're not going to fight someone at their peak, you wouldn't have thought. Yeah. But back to the stoppage, that was, it's a shame. I don't like to criticise referees because it's the most difficult job in the world. But Herb Dean, he does sometimes lack that, I don't know, he kind of doubts himself something. He made the decision to stop the fight. Then just before he did, he changed his mind. And you can't do that. And the trouble with Herb Dean, he's such a nice guy. Remember when the Ben Askren Robbie Lawler fight? When Robbie Lawler says, "What? I was fine." Herb Dean just looked really upset and shocked. What do you mean? I thought you were out. If that was Mark Goddard would have been, "You were out. I'm not even discussing it." Mm-hmm. Herb Dean's so nice, and I think he needs to be a little bit more like Mark Goddard in a way. Just very.
Is Leon sizzling right now?
Yeah,
Like,
I
it's
heard some sizzling.
Are
Your
you
your
cooking
microphone,
some
Leon,
fries?
is. I
how's
think
that now?
Leon's cooking
Any
some.
different?
It's okay. Yeah, it's all right now.
He's cooking some fish sticks over there.
Because I wonder if it's if I'm charging my Mac up at the same time.
I'm
Maybe
going to send you a microphone, Leon, in the mail.
Let me see if it's because
yeah.
I don't use headphones when I'm not recording.
You need to get yourself a proper setup. You know, you splashed out on all those graphics for your new
Is that better?
shows on YouTube. Oh, that's a little bit
Any
better. Yeah,
difference?
yeah, much better.
Oh,
Sounds
so it was
good.
just the headphones.
Yeah, you should probably do
Yeah,
it like that.
you've been buzzing the whole show. I felt too. I didn't want to tell you off, you know, because
I
you're
thought,
being nice by coming
I'm
on
not-
the show.
I don't think it made any difference if you weren't recording.
Yeah.
Live and learn.
All right.
There you go. there
Well,
you go.
anyways, let's shoot forward.
Yep. Sorry, guys. Okay. A couple people asked this. I think Chris asked as well, but Hamish has asked again. What did you think about the Khalil Roundtree Jr. fight? Yeah, I mean, I was fuming about this in terms of I picked Khalil in my fantasy picks for Fanatics MMA.
Nick is
sure.
only worried about his picks and the fanatics.
Hey, I had a disastrous day, and let me tell you about this. I went 3-8. Shocker, and it all went wrong. It all started going wrong with Khalil Roundtree Jr., who I thought won this fight, but the judges gave it. Apparently, Marcin Prachnio won rounds 1 and 3. I completely disagree. I thought Khalil won. Don't let me go off on one because I'll start crying. This just was such a horrible thing for me. I was so pissed off, and then I think I cursed everyone I picked on the card. Then lost after that. But anyway,
This is why I do picks. You get too invested in who you want to win.
I have to. They're my friends and they sponsor the show. So look, I got to make my picks. Like you two are outside the box.
John,
you're not
invested in the picks either.
John can't download it in Korea. It's banned in Korea. It's violent content. Yeah. So it's no picks for John. So you two are unbiased by your picks. Do you think Khalil Roundtree Jr. deserved to win that fight?
I'd say no, just for the fact that what was it, the second round? He really hurt his opponent, and he didn't do anything. I mean, there's one thing not going crazy, emptying the gas tank. He done the opposite. I was like, he done the chicken dance, didn't he? And then like going for the kill a little bit at least. I think it reminded me a little bit of Michael Bisping and Anderson Silva. I think at one point, Anderson Silva, there's a couple of points in that fight where he had Michael Bisping really hurt and he never went in for the kill. He just kept playing around, which is a bit like Anderson Silva anyway. But then he lost a decision. I think if he'd gone in for the kill, even if he hadn't finished it, he'd have got the result. So I don't think you can argue with the result personally.
Yeah, I just thought, okay, yeah, Prachnio was doing the chicken dance, but I thought Roundtree's game plan was just picking him off a little bit, and he did all the damage in the fight.
But not when your opponent's doing the chicken dance. You've got to
just
step
thought
up at that moment.
It was precise. It was controlled,
No, I'm not saying you should go crazy, but that's your opportunity. You've hurt him. Take advantage of that. And he looks pretty tired though.
Yeah. Well, look, John, if you want to weigh in, John, do so. Otherwise, we'll move on. Did you like Roundtree? Do you think Roundtree won or lost?
I felt like Roundtree, he did fade in the third round. He seemed
tired.
like he was conserving his energy in the third round just to kind of last and to kind of avoid the damage. Because I feel like the third round, you probably could have gave it to Marcin, but there was like not much that was being done for that whole round, right? Like there was not much damage on either side. So that third round could have been a toss up. I felt like the first round Khalil won it, to be honest with you. I mean, it was close, but I feel like Khalil did like volume wise, maybe Marcin landed more, but Khalil did the most damage with his shots. And that second round, it was clear, right? It was clear in the second round that Khalil won that round. And I feel like the reason why Khalil probably didn't go in for the kill is you got to go back to the Eric Anders fight, right? When he came out with the Bangkok ready, Khalil Roundtree, and he did the same thing in that fight too. He got Anders hurt. He stepped away, let him stand up, and he went back to work, right? And I felt like Khalil probably was thinking that in the fight, but this time it kind of backfired on him. And him returning off a long layoff and then going to Fight Island, I feel like that probably had an effect on him because he looked like he was fading in that third round. If that fight was a 5-rounder, I think Marcin would probably beat him. You know what I mean? Like, anyways, because Khalil was fading. But the thing is, it wasn't a 5-rounder. It was a 3-rounder, and I think Khalil won that fight. I feel like he did get screwed by the judges. And Marcin, he's so lucky because if he would have lost this fight, he would have probably most likely been cut from the UFC.
Yep, Marcin was 3-0 coming into the fight, so yeah, hopefully Marcin keeps his job. Anyway, we'll keep going. Daniel Edwards saying Rebus being knocked out by Poliana Viana of all people was a red flag. Yeah, did we talk about this? But like, what do you do next with Rebus, guys? Is that hype train over, or do you want me to move on to other questions? I've got a few others here. Who's the light?
Gonna get another good fight, and then we're gonna see her again. No worries, man. Let's go.
She's at 10 in the world. There's no need to panic. Just give someone similar ranking again, and dust yourself off and start again, didn't you?
Exactly.
All right. Okay. MD asking who's the lightweight king at the end of 2021 when it's all said and done, guys. When the dust settles on this year, who's got the title?
Easy. Diego Sanchez.
Okay.
Joshua, what was his name? Joshua what? The guy that he's always with?
His guru.
His guru?
Fabia. Josh Fabia.
Oh, Josh Fabia. Yeah, he'll be the lightweight king. Okay. Probably.
Did you see a clip of him when he cornered Matt Serra at breakfast from Fight Island?
Yeah, that was so good.
That was just bad. Like, why would you do that? Like, that guy needs advice. I don't understand how a guy like that is giving Diego Sanchez advice. He needs advice. It's a trip.
He needs advice.
He does, man. He needs to sit down. He needs an intervention. He needs one of those interventions that, like they do on TV where all your friends gather and they tell you like why you are hurting them. Like why you are disadvantageous for our life. You know what I mean? Like you gotta do one of those with him. But Diego Sanchez, I don't know if we'll ever see him fight again, to be honest with you. I think he has one more fight in the UFC.
McGregor Sanchez fight is now closer than ever.
Right? Jesus. If that does happen, I might have to not watch fighting for a while.
I might have to give up covering the sport.
I might have to just give up on this whole I might just have to go turn to boxing and just cover boxing.
You could turn to football. You can be a Chelsea reporter.
I'll be a Chelsea reporter. I'll be reporting football in Korea with like 5 viewers.
Yeah,
K-League with 5 viewers.
All right, that's 4 more than we get on the show. So.
Two of them are Nick and Chris.
Yeah, Chris will watch it. Chris will literally watch it.
Just to troll me.
Oh no, he would genuinely watch it. Here's another one. MD again. Do you guys have some sneaky picks to put money on for the next events? I think we get a week off, guys, don't we now? Which is very welcome. Thank you, UFC, for that. But I think then February we have got, is it Overeem?
Yeah, Volkov, and then UFC.
That's a good card right there.
All right, I'm just looking on the Fanatics app, and there's one matchup on that card, so I will go on Google quickly. Who else is on this card?
I think Sanhagen and Eggers on that card. I think Manel Cape is going to make his UFC debut on that card.
Oh, finally.
I've already interviewed a few fighters off that card. So Sanhagen interviewed him. Manel Cape interviewed him already. Who else is on that card? But I know those are like 3 of the top fights right there that I'm looking forward to.
And the week
after, there's nothing else official other than that main event. But yeah, Leon, sorry, go ahead.
So the week after, then it's Usman versus Burns.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, that's gonna be good.
Yeah.
That's gonna be great. But the thing is, like, you guys should never take advice from us. If you're betting money,
Oh my!
I wouldn't take too much advice from us. You know, we're here 50% to just entertain you and to just discuss these things.
If
But
you're gonna take money from anyone and you're gonna take advice from anyone, not me, definitely not me. You can
definitely, definitely not me.
Jasmine is top of our group in this app, Fanatics. She is
Yes.
far and away. She had like a clean sweep on the other day. I don't know how she does it. She takes the emotion out of it.
Well,
She spends hours researching it. So look, we'll do
she
another
probably
preview
has
this
a
time.
DeLorean in Georgia.
I'm quite good at the one picks. And the other thing I do is if because I don't do any research, I literally just remember how their previous fights and weigh up all the psychology and all that malarkey and then come to a conclusion. But the other thing I do is if I think a fight is just too fascinating and interesting, I'll just say I'm not going to pick because it'd just be 50-50. What's the point? If I genuinely don't think, if I don't have a feeling one person's going to win, I just don't give a pick.
Well, look, it can go either way. I was 5-1 on Friday night for one championship, and then I was 3-8 for UFC on Sunday. So peaks and valleys, guys. You know, it can go the other way. Don't listen to me. We'll be back though with the preview on Friday night. Sorry, not on Friday night because the show's on Friday night. I think we'll be back before then with the preview for One Championship Unbreakable 2. Nice fun card, isn't it, Leon? We got Rug against Alan Nalani.
Yeah.
Well, I heard that result is already out there on the internet.
Do you know what?
I'm not going to say anything.
I spoke to Tammy about that. Tammy's the PR championship.
Yeah.
She said that could cost, they'll look into it, but that could cost him millions. If you think about it, no one's leaked anything. If you think that if you're one championship, you're going to get people to sign contracts. Everyone who's in the building sign a contract saying you're not going to leak the thing. So if someone has leaked the result, if it's true, I mean, the other thing as well is we might have just been fooled. It might not even be true. But if it's
you
true,
think the Panther has won?
Well, no, I don't know. What I will say is, though, Panther versus Vitor Belfort, I'm glad that isn't happening.
I don't think Vitor's ever going to fight in one. He's now an ambassador, I think, on their website.
Too one-sided.
It seems like the website that's reporting the results is from somewhere on that side of the world, right? So
Senegal.
Yeah, so it must be someone leaking information, and if they find out where the leak is, this is a major breach, right? This is like the Pentagon, you know, and agents have gone rogue. Jason Bourne has left the building, right? And just it could be some implications right here.
The staff don't even know the results. Tammy doesn't know any of the results. It's if you're not in that building, you don't know the results. It's that carefully set, and you've got to really, haven't you? I mean, like I don't even when I post some articles on my website, I don't even mention it's pre-recorded because not everyone knows. I figure if you think it's live, you're going to enjoy it better. There's no point in ruining it for everyone. If it's like we're talking about now, then I'll mention it. But I don't even mention it's not live to people. Just
fake news, Leon. Okay.
No,
lying to the people. Well, look, someone in Rugbrug's camp.
Let's say we got about 10 more minutes, right?
I think we're caught up on questions. So if anyone has any more, ask them. Yeah. Otherwise,
questions in 5 more minutes. Come on, guys, get them in.
Yeah. Otherwise, any other big talking points from 257? There were so many shocks. I think we covered the main shocks. I don't think we've got any others.
Hey, you know what was the main shock is the bonuses. Okay, the bonuses. So the bonuses,
there were 4, right?
There were 4 performance bonuses, right? There was a performance bonus for
the 4 people that finished on the main card. They all got a bonus.
Yeah. Well, was there any prelim fights that were good?
I saw the prelims. They were good fights.
Yeah, there were some good fights, right?
Oh,
Wasn't
how
there?
about this? Someone asked earlier, Jasmine, I think, asked, just asking our thoughts about Nick Lentz retired after this fight.
Yeah.
Nick Lentz lost to Movsar Evloev, decision. I think it was split in the end. Well, he looked pretty bust up at the end, and his eye was all messed up. And then he revealed on Instagram afterwards he's having a lot of issues seeing out of that eye. So in the fights, he's kind of maybe 50%, maybe a little bit of a Michael Bisping situation, and it's really not safe or fair for him to fight anymore. Great career, Nick Lentz, the Carney guys. Good way to go out. Yeah, final words on Nick's career. What
I watched James Lynch's interview with Nick ahead of this fight, and Nick broke down like everything that has happened to him over the last year or so. And yeah, he had to have surgery on his eye, and he couldn't see out his eye for months at a time or something like that. And then the doctors told him that he might lose his eye. And then if they go through some procedure, it could fix it, but also maybe it could make you blind. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of adversity, man, sitting at home thinking that you could lose your eye. That could play with your mind deep. You know what I mean? And luckily he is a day trader. Like, he has a job, or he has a occupation outside of fighting that's actually lucrative, and he could go to that and continue with that career. I think Nick Lentz, I think he's had like more than 20 UFC fights, so he's been around for a long time, fought some of the best in the world. When your body is failing you and you need to leave, and you leave at the right moment, so you could kind of continue your life without too many, aches and pains. I think it's the perfect time to go. Nick Lentz, man, he's a guy that we'll always remember as a guy that is gritty. That's like one word that I could describe him as: gritty. Like, he's a gritty fighter, and hopefully, he prospers in retirement. I think he's gonna do well.
These fighters just aren't human. I mean, like Dana says a lot, 99% of people could not even comprehend going inside a cage, punching, kicking, choking people out, arm up. You can't imagine that. And then for someone who's, I think he said before the operation, he'd had double vision so long it'd become normal. Then he had the operation, and then I think he said something about, then he's lost 40% of his eyesight. And then to have another fight is like Michael Bisping fighting on with his eye condition, and then like especially recently with the story coming out of MMA Fighting, Spencer Fisher. That doesn't seem to have stopped them kind of fighters from just going in there and just being prepared to go to war for 25 minutes, knowing perfectly well that this could compromise their long-term health. It's crazy. These guys, they deserve all the money in the world. They deserve Conor McGregor money. Even the lower guys, maybe they deserve to be paid well for putting their bodies on the line to entertain us, to feed their families. They deserve more. And that's one of the biggest criticisms I'm doing. I don't like to criticize any promotions, but that's one of the things. I want to see MMA promotions pay their fighters 50% of the profits like all other sports do. Until then, that's not fair, because they're putting their lives on the line for us. And we criticize them. We try and make money from from covering them, and they're the ones that are putting their health on the line. Pay them.
100% agree. Can't argue with that, Leon. Yeah, and just want to wish Nick Lentz all the best in retirement. Very entertaining final fight, and it was cool. He kind of put Evloev over in a way, nice send off. Evloev now gets to step up. I think really looks for another step up in his competition after that. I think he's a real prospect. He looked good in that fight, but yeah, Nick Lentz, wonderful fighter. Awesome to see him go out. It was a very good fight, but yeah, a couple more questions here. Chris, you think we'll see Sarah McMahon fight again after that? She was it was rear naked choke defeat to the Venezuelan vixen who called out Amanda Nunes and said Nunes was ducking her. I don't know what you think about this, guys. Do you think that's the case?
Did you see
First,
Amanda Nunes' response and Nina Ansaroff?
Yeah. Just weird. I mean, I think they shut that down pretty quickly, but
yeah, but the thing is with Sarah McMahon. First off, the question: are we going to see her fight again? We're going to see her fight again. She's
Of course,
she's ranked like number 7 or 8 in the world. I think she's going to fight again. She just lost, and she's going to get back on the horse and do it again. I feel like we're going to see her for a while, continue her career with the UFC. With the call out stuff, of course you're going to call out the champ. You just beat the number 7 or 8 ranked girl in the world. Of course, you're going to call the champ. It's the Conor McGregor card. It's going to draw some attention. And what would you do if you're Amanda Nunes? You would say the exact same thing that she said. Is like you'd have to become a
Nunes
contender.
has got Megan Anderson, right?
Yeah, but that's at featherweight.
Nunes has Megan Anderson. Why? Yeah, but why does she care about Juliana Pena right now? Because Juliana Pena apparently had her chance. Nunes said twice, and then
she didn't win the fight
so
to get the title shots, right?
Yeah.
So,
she didn't win the fight.
She didn't win the fights to get the title shots, and that's just truth, right? We can't lie about that. That's the truth. She had her opportunities to win the title eliminators, and she didn't win the title eliminators, and the other fighters got the chance to fight Amanda Nunes. So I don't think, of course she's trying to stir the pot. That's what Pena's trying to do, and she stirred it for like 10 seconds, and then it went back to a no flames.
Everyone went crazy. But
She looked the real deal before she got pregnant. Although I think she lost to Valentina Shevchenko. That was probably her first chance to fight for the title. Submission. But then Valentina Shevchenko, for me, is up there with Amanda Nunes. Her only 2 losses were against Nunes, who's the GOAT. Mm-hmm. And that was above her weight class. So Valentina Shevchenko, for me, deserves even more credit than she gets. So I think Juliana Pena, before she got pregnant, was a real threat in that division.
Yeah, she was a monster.
Baby, and she, especially as well, she had that sort of very ruthless mindset before. She seems, has she still got that now she's a mother? Has she still got that drive that she had before? Maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. But I think that just stopped her momentum, having a baby.
But the thing about it is that we can never count out anybody, though, especially if you're up at the top of the division like Pena is, even though she's lost and won and lost and won. Because you always got to look at Michael Bisping. He's just perfect example of like someone that you counted out the whole time, and then he ended up winning the title. He ended up defending the title, which is crazy to me, right? And it just shows you the type of human being, what type of fighter that Michael Bisping was, man, that he never gave up. He's an inspiration. Like, I'm inspired by Michael Bisping. And I think like a lot of these fighters, whenever people start counting them out, I start to think about Michael Bisping all the time and think like, man, what if they just pulled a Michael Bisping? Because like Michael Bisping he pulled a Michael Bisping, he beat the guy that dominated him. He beat the guy that dominated him in the first fight and knocked him out for the title at the biggest, most mind-rattling position. And that's why I love Michael Bisping, man. He's the greatest example.
I love Bisping. I was actually thinking about this the other day, how crazy it is to think only 4 years ago, was it, that it was Bisping, Henderson, to... So think how far the division's come along now. Let's see where it is. It's insane to think about that.
Henderson's
no, not on Bisping and Henderson, but there's just so much fresh blood in there now, and it's just mind-boggling to think how quickly things can change. But I think that goes back to the top of this whole show. Oh, I just hit my mic there. Conor McGregor's been gone for 4 years essentially, and I think things have moved on in 4 years, and he's finding that out now. Is he going to come back? Is he going to figure out? Is he going to put in the hard work to evolve himself? But that's a topic we already discussed. So I think final question here before we get out of here.
As he used to be. He was obsessed. Like I remember Devlin saying once she'd wake up at 3 a.m. and he'd be standing next to bed shadowboxing. Now he's got 2 kids and a 3rd kid on the way. He's got all that money. Is it physically possible to have that same obsession? Having kids is interesting. Like there are athletes that they're putting off having kids till after their career because they want to concentrate purely on their career. And then there are other athletes that have kids and then are so inspired to do well for their kids. So it's an interesting one.
Absolutely. All right, yeah, let's wrap it up. We're coming up on 2 hours, so we'll take this final question from Hamish R. Thank you, Hamish. Do you think Chandler will be liked going forward, or is he too cheesy?
He's liked, man. He's basically what the UFC was searching in Sage Northcutt and Paige Van Zandt. He's that. He's the boy next door. He is the wrestler, the All-American, the apple pie, the baseball. Like he's like the symbol. He could go out there and get interviewed by ESPN, get interviewed by Oprah Winfrey. I've been talking about this with a lot of people, man. Michael Chandler is a great representative of mixed martial arts, and he will be a great representative for the UFC. He can look at him. He adopted a kid, and he's raising an adopted kid with his wife. You know what I mean? Like his life it's just all good. You know, there's no negativity surrounding him at all, to be honest with you. I don't think I've ever heard anything negative, except for like the steroid allegations that other people have towards Michael Chandler, but he's never been popped for steroids. He just went through USADA. He just fought, so you know that he's most likely clean. So like Chandler is not cheesy, but I think he's just the straight lace father, you know, husband, the All-American, man. Like they're looking for that, and I think Chandler is the guy. He could go on ESPN and go talk to Stephen A. Smith. He could go on any talk show, anyone, and fit in. He's basically the Tom Cruise of the USC, to be honest with you. That could knock your brains out.
You mean is he the Tom Brady of MMA, like or what?
Not to that stretch. He's the Tom Cruise. He's the Top Gun. He's the Maverick.
Yeah, just listening to him talk,
and Leon is the Goose.
The Goose.
He's Goose Man.
Okay, go on, Leon. Sorry.
You're just listening to him talk, listening to his teammates describe him. He just sounds like a top bloke. Just sounds like a geezer. He just comes across so well. Like I say, he's good looking. He talks well. He cuts an amazing promo. He knows how to play the game. Pulling that Ric Flair promo. Well, I don't know Ric Flair, but I've heard it. I've heard people saying it's a Ric Flair promo. I know who Ric Flair is. But yeah, he just ticks a lot of boxes.
You don't know who Ric Flair is?
I do know who he is, but I don't.
14-time world champion.
Go to YouTube and search Ric Flair, Leon, and watch his highlights.
Leon.
This guy is the promo master.
Can't be bothered to.
No, it's just funny though. You gotta watch it. It's
See,
comedy.
Paguru was asking about this earlier. I missed your question, Paguru. Sorry if you're still watching. About what the Twitter outrage over DC's Ric Flair reference on commentary.
I
missed this, man. What's the whole beef? What did Chandler say that was quoting Ric Flair?
Wasn't it just a style?
Style and profile. What was that? What he's saying?
Oh, he said styling and profiling. Yeah, that's Ric Flair.
Yeah, that's Ric Flair.
Okay, well, hey, he said it, man. Like he's paying homage to Ric Flair. Like if someone goes, woo, that's Ric Flair. That's everybody.
I watched that fight, and then I was in a room with a bunch of people, and after Chandler won, I turned around to Chris, and I said, "That was money. That promo. That was money."
I turned around to Chris, and I gave him a hug.
I said that guy just made himself a superstar in 1 minute. He just made himself a star. Like that was how good that promo was. And I'm sick of seeing people get that chance, and then they get on the mic, and then John Anik, Daniel Cormier, whoever, Paul Furter asked them, "Who do you want to fight next?" They're like, I don't know. Well, I'll think about it. I'll go home and think about it. It's like use that minute. You've got 30 seconds, man, to like
get out of here.
get out of here.
But anyways, one last question before we go. I see somebody has a question about Dan
All right,
Hooker.
all right.
I have some answers.
Christopher Schwagmeyer. Thanks, Christopher. Yeah, great name. You're not too late. Hey, brother, was there anything behind Dan throwing his gloves in the octagon?
Well, I've texted with somebody that is on Fight Island, and you know, other people were texting me about it, about Dan and him taking off his gloves, and the only thing to that is, from what I heard, is Dan was just super angry, super frustrated, and just disappointed, man. And then he took his gloves off and threw them out. That's what he did. It was nothing about retiring or anything like that. I don't believe. It was just, he was just angry. You know what I mean? He was, you know, you're on that big stage, you're on a Conor McGregor card, and you don't show up. Of course you're gonna be frustrated, right? And that's what happened, most likely. Allegedly.
All right. Well, look, Daniel Edwards also clearing up what we were just saying about Ric Flair and Michael Chandler. Apparently, Daniel thinks DC was referencing Flair crossing over from WCW to WWF back in the day.
Oh God, we're getting too deep.
Hamish R says he actually just rewrote an old Ric Flair speech. I need to go look back at it. Apparently, yes, Royal Rumble 1992. I'll go check it out. Christopher Schwarzmeyer. You're my favorite new user, Christopher. You are VIP here. That's what I was kind of thinking. Dan is a savage, and he will rebound. Yeah, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but none of us have any fears Dan Hooker will not be back in that octagon, John. I think Dan's coming back. No two ways about it. All right, look, I think we've done 2 hours, so
wrap it up.
My mouth is dry. I need to drink some water.
He needs to moisten his mouth.
Yeah. Need to wet the whistle. So
go lubricate your mouth real quick.
Yeah. I guess that's it. Thank you guys for joining me. It's been a pleasure to see Leon again. Yes. We haven't had this
AKA Gooseman, AKA Gooseman, AKA the Teflon Don Leon.
This was the 3 who, remember, we were in Busan, John. We did that live podcast.
Right,
I don't think we've done it together since then. So
I had 2 a.m., wasn't it?
Yeah, hopefully my pronunciation was a little bit better this time. I wasn't so good then. After 15 hours of a show on a fight night. Slightly fresher today. Chris Edwards Bailey, also good to see you. Love you guys. We love you, Chris. Other than that, I don't know what else I got to say. Yeah, go download the Fanatics app.
Yes,
we'll be back. We'll be back with our picks for One Championship, Unbreakable 2. The show's on Friday. We'll do a preview maybe Wednesday, Thursday. John, you got your shows back on Thursday now. You didn't do it last week because there were 2 UFC shows in 1 week or 3.
Yes, this week I'll have a coach from Team Elevation joining us for the live chat.
Sounds good. Leon, what's coming up on Asian Persuasion MMA, apmma.net?
Usual, just covering obviously one stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks. Some interviews coming up with some of the fighters. And yeah, just news and that jazz.
Where can we go find you? On YouTube, everywhere, Twitter?
Yeah, just Google Asian Persuasion MMA on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, apmma.net for the website. Yeah, you're good to go.
Okay, you sold it. Big sell. No, thank you, Leon. Thank you, John. And thank you all for interacting and commenting. Really appreciate it. We will see you all again next time. Cheers. Hope you